Hello, bonjour. I've set myself a bit of a task here. I'm trying to put together a video. In fact, I'm doing a video that I said I probably wasn't going to do. Just come back last weekend, came back from our big holiday, and I did say I wasn't going to share holiday videos anymore because they didn't seem to go down very well. I've had people say how much they enjoy the holiday videos, and who am I to disappoint? And in a way, it's good. I've said this many times. It's good to get something together like this as an amalgamation, for want of a better word, of our holiday for ourselves. So I've made notes, and I will slot in as best I can photos and little videos in between. I've no idea how long it's going to be, but I'm going to do it. So I'm back, and hopefully I haven't lost too many of you on the way while you've been waiting. Anyway, let's just get on with this one. We actually went to Agadir in Morocco, and we went for 4 weeks. Now, I know we are very fortunate to have been able to do that. Not many people can take that amount of time, but for health reasons we decided that we couldn't have another whole long winter at home, because the winters have been horrible, and I'm sure it's been similar where you are. And I've said again before, Duncan does suffer with SAD. He doesn't have a lot of success with things like the lights and everything. I have been feeding him with vitamin D tablets and things like that, which have helped. But as everybody knows, even if you don't really suffer with SAD, rain and winter just can really drag you down, and it's not good for you when you've got to work. This year we were determined that we would do something about it. So we looked out for, we did at first think maybe 3 weeks, and I must admit I did push for a little bit more, because I'm the one on the outside looking and watching Duncan go through this every year, and I think he needed a real good dose of vitamin D. So we looked. It's quite hard actually to find a package deal, which is what we wanted to keep the price down, to find a package deal that was a price that wasn't way beyond our pocket, and this was what we managed to do. And I think a lot of the time, a lot of companies don't seem to want to do beyond 2 weeks, but we persisted, and we found this one, and we stayed at a hotel called Allegro in Agadir in Morocco. Obviously Duncan's self-employed, so it's up to him what holiday he takes and when. So anyway, we found a really good package deal, and it was for all-inclusive at this hotel, including flights. If anybody wants to know, there are more, you can ask me how much it was. But we travelled with Transavia. We had not heard of them before. And obviously all these companies, there were bad reviews, and in the end you just have to go for it, don't you, because everybody's got different expectations. So if you've got a low expectation, you can't be disappointed, can you? And it wasn't the most comfortable flight, but it was only for 2.5 hours. Well, we thought it was going to be 3 hours actually, but the going out for some reason was only 2.5 hours. When we came home it was 3. But no, it was pleasant enough, just not, as usual, not a lot of knee room on the plane. But our end, we flew from Nantes, and the airport and everything went smoothly. Coming home wasn't quite so smooth, it was a bit chaotic the other end. But it's all in the past now. We've done it, we had a fantastic time, and I'm just now going to talk about what we did and show you some photos. But yeah, we were lucky. If you haven't been to Agadir, I can highly recommend it. It was absolutely wonderful, especially I think for this time of year. We had temperatures between 18 and 26 degrees centigrade. And I think if you follow it, if you use Fahrenheit, it's going to be between 32 and 78 degrees Fahrenheit. It was a little bit chillier in the evenings, but that was fine. We just put a cardigan on or a jacket, and we weren't generally outside in the evenings anyway. The hotel we stayed at was Hotel Allegro, not sponsored, I hasten to add. It's close to the beach and it's got nice pools, lovely rooms, beautiful gardens. I could not get over the gardens. Their gardeners worked so hard and it is just perfect. They topiaried all the little bushes and things, and you'll see in the photos, some of them are absolutely stunning, and gardens close by are very nicely done as well. There's obviously a lot of cactuses, sort of succulents and that sort of thing, and loads and loads and loads of palm trees, and it was just all stunning. The animations team were fantastic. When I say animations, you may not use that word, maybe you say the entertainments team, but they were fantastic. They worked really hard at keeping everybody entertained. So friendly. They'd sit and have a chat with you and we'd sort of share their lives with you and things like that. Absolutely lovely. And I'll show you some photos of that. So there's views of around the pool, and that you used to have to do this little dance at the start of the 2 and 3 hours that they were in operation, as it were, and at the end of it to say goodbye. And it was always really sweet, and if you could join in, you'd join in. They did a lot of fitness activities, which we did join in with some. Well, I say we. Duncan did most of the time. They did a yoga morning and afternoon, and they did aqua aerobics every few days, or they did aqua basketball, things like that, and also did step. Now, Duncan took part in the yoga, the aqua aerobics and the step. He only did the step once or twice because he wanted to do yoga. Doing the two was sort of overdoing it a little bit. Not as young as he was. We probably could have done a few more of the activities, but we were often off-site ourselves, either walking somewhere ourselves, shopping, or just doing touristy stuff. One thing we don't generally do when we're on holiday, we tend to keep ourselves to ourselves. We'll have a bit of a conversation with people, but not very much. I don't know why that is. Maybe we're just too busy, I don't know. But again, because we had so much more time, it was nice to actually spend time and make time to talk to people. And we made a lot of friends during our stay. I'm in contact with some of them on WhatsApp now. We met a family from Glasgow. They're the ones we spent two weeks of our holiday with. They was really, really good fun. We played cards with them most nights, and they taught us quite a few card games, but we really had a really good laugh, and we really missed them when they left. And just say hi to Sheila and Margaret, Lomond and John. We went in a taxi, shared some taxis with people, and a couple of them we'd sort of kept as friends, again, via WhatsApp. We shared a taxi with a lovely couple of ladies from the south of England that we went to Agadir, Medina. I'll slot some photos in of that. And at the Medina we looked around the little shops that were there. I didn't know, I don't remember this, but Agadir apparently had a massive earthquake in the 60s, and it destroyed, just flattened the area. So there's not a lot of history as in buildings and things there, because they no longer exist. So everything's quite new and very fresh, really. Even though I suppose you can say 40 plus years, it's still a long time, but compared to London or somewhere, it's still quite fresh. But the Medina was another one of these that got flattened, and they've started to rebuild it, and it looks like almost a bit like you're walking onto a Disney set, to be honest, but it's still beautiful, really, really well done, and they're still working on it, still improving it and everything. And we thought, yeah, that it was, because it looked fresh, that it was quite new, but they'd started rebuilding it in 1992, I think, or 97. And yeah, they're just doing a really good job. And there's lots of little crafty type shops within the Medina, and you can stop and eat there. And again, I'll show you the photos. And there's a little photo of our two lovely ladies, Sandra and Jackie. Hi, Sandra and Jackie. In those shops, Duncan bought me a silver ring. I'll slot a picture in, but that's that one. And some earrings that were made from recycled coffee pods. That's these, you can see. And I was really thrilled with them, because I mean, Duncan just said, you've got to buy it, you've got to have some of those, because we've got a real thing, I've said before many times, that we've got a real thing about craft people, and especially if they're making things from recycled things. So it's very rare that we won't buy something. But also, I spotted outside these lovely bracelets. I'm going to try and slot a picture in. I keep forgetting to take a picture. But it's like a beaded bracelet, and the beads are made and crafted somehow. I think they've just been wound with silk. And there's a picture showing you like a tray with all the silk cottons in it, showing you what they use to make them. yeah, so we had a coffee there and got the taxi back. Another time we shared a taxi with a group of French people, and we were stood at the bus stop waiting to go to Tagazout. Tagazout is a surfing village. All right, we're not surfers, but we love that whole, is the word genre? I don't know, but we love that whole vibe, and so we wanted to go and have a look, and we decided for another experience we'd go by bus. And so we went and found the bus stop and waited there for quite a while, and there was a few other people waiting, and then these people, French people as it turned out, turned up. And the taxi drivers are quite crafty. They pull along alongside a bus stop, trying to persuade you to get into their taxi instead of waiting for the bus. And we're trying to ignore them because we thought, no, we want the experience of the bus. Anyway, one of the French people was persuaded, went up to speak to him and said we're going to take a zoo. She said how much, and he said 170, which really isn't a lot, to be perfectly honest. What we were doing was just knocking the zero off to get the euro. As it turned out, it was slightly less than that, which we didn't know really till we got home, but that way we could work out the cost of things. Well, the trip to Tagazout was 26 kilometres, for 170, but that was it. That's 170, and then we split it between 5 of us, so it worked out quite cheap. So yeah, so we went in a taxi with them, and then we sort of looked around a while. We'd arranged that if we did happen to see each other or we'd meet each other somewhere, I can't remember if we actually said we'd meet back where the car dropped us off, but anyway, we had a lunch in a restaurant there, and they happened to turn up at the same restaurant, and we then said, right, well, should we meet after a half hour plus and we'll get the taxi back? And that's what we did. I was a little bit disappointed because I thought I hadn't finished looking around Tagazout, but we did it, and yeah, so it worked out stupidly cheap to get the taxi back and to there. But we did go back another day to see it, so I was quite pleased, but I'll tell you about that in a bit. We also met another lovely French lady, never to get her name. She must have been in her 90s, and really sweet, there on her own, tiny little lady, and she's been visiting that hotel for 10 years. Gone every year. I assume she did the same. She stays for 3 months at a time, and so it was interesting to hear what changes she'd seen in the hotel and everything. We know in 2020 they'd done a complete refurbishment, so to her that must have been a great surprise when she went back. But yeah, we didn't get to talk to her very much. Because she was so sweet and about being on her own, she made friends with quite a lot of people. Duncan got speaking to a nice German man, quite a tall German man who was a teacher in Germany. He attended the yoga class, usually both classes, every day, whereas Duncan only did the afternoon class. I did 2 of them. I did do 2. But he was there on a 10-week break. So it was quite interesting talking to him, and he was saying about how he has to have a 2-hour walk, at least that every day, because otherwise you could just get lazy and just sit round the pool or whatever. So yeah, it was really nice to sort of hear from him as well. And we discovered a lot of people actually that were there on a return visit. We met Nanny Annie. We saw her getting around, bless her, and she had like a walking frame, and there was a lot of people there because, I don't know if it's because of the time in year, but there was a lot of elderly. Obviously we were there, weren't we? But lots of wheelchairs, lots of walking frames, and yeah, I suppose it was just easier for them to get that time of year off as it was for us, so there was a lot of them there. And it's to say, it turns out quite a few people were on a return visit. Now, Nanny Annie had been going there for quite a few years as well. Now, I'm calling Nanny Annie because that's what everybody knew her as, and she was a 91-year-old lady, and we got chatting to her. They were playing cards in the bar one day, and we got chatting to her, and she was there with her 2 granddaughters. And following a lot of the conversation we had with them, found out that she was French, and she'd left France many years ago and was teaching in the UK, and happened to teach in the area that Duncan and I were from. Small world, as they say. Because when they were playing cards, and then we were asking them what card game they were playing, Marie Claire, one of the granddaughters, turned around and she said, "Is that a Kent accent I can hear?" I couldn't believe it. And then she just, from then on, this is it, we were just chatting and catching up. And as I say, it turns out she's in Bexley Heath, which is where one of my daughters lives, and she's been in that area for a long, long time. She's got full intentions on going back again next year. Well, in fact, I did say to her, "Are you intending on coming back next year?" And she said, oh yes, she said, "unless I'm in heaven." So yeah, and it would not surprise me one iota if she did, because she's one determined lady, as her granddaughters will tell you. When they left, that was 2 days before we left, she said to us, "Can you look after my little Marie Claire when I've left," sort of thing. Marie Claire doesn't need looking after. She's a grown woman. But as it turned out, we did spend the last 2 days with her. We jumped on the bus with her to Tagazout, so I did get to go back and have another look round, and we had lunch there again. Again, photos to slot in. Hey!
I'm not skilled.
The bus was another experience, very crowded. We had to stand most of the way there. I say we had to. I was offered a seat after, I suppose, about 2/3 of the way, so I did get to sit down, but the other, Duncan and Marie Claire didn't. And then coming back, we all got a seat, so that was fine. But yeah, it's a beautiful place, and you can't help but smile. It's warm, the waves are lashing, because say it's a surf town, so it's really, there's a lot of waves. And so yes, so it was a pleasure to meet you, Marie Claire, and please send our best wishes to Nanny Annie and your sister Amy. And who knows, maybe we'll meet you back at Allegro another year. Otherwise, keep in touch on WhatsApp. One thing we did quite often was to walk along the Agadir beachfront. It's absolutely beautiful. The beaches are so clean. There's lots of restaurants and shops, as you'd expect. One thing that was noticeable was that there's a lot of police and army presence, which most people might find a bit, well, and I suppose we did to start with, a bit unnerving. But once you realise the king lives in Agadir and his palace wasn't that far away, you can understand why. And part of that beach belongs to the king as well. You can go along up to a certain part, and then you're not allowed to go any further. It's, I think, 12 kilometres of beach, so he's obviously got a big chunk of it. Yeah, there's police and army presence. They walked up and down the beachfront all the time. Sometimes like they'd be on a quad bike, but their vans were there, and they had a station on the actual beachfront. If you've been to Morocco, you'll know that the main drink everyone has there is mint tea. And we noticed on a poster that they jokingly call it Moroccan or Berber whiskey. It's not like any whiskey I know of. But it's quite refreshing, and they've got a knack to how they pour it and everything, and we had that quite a lot. It was included in some of the trips we went on as well. And talking of trips or excursions, we don't usually go on any because we find that they can be quite expensive, and we're never really sure that how much you're actually getting for that money. But in Morocco, in our experience, they weren't expensive, so we were very tempted. There's a lot of them. There's a lot for if you're younger, like sand surfing and surfing on the water. There's jet skiing, all that sort of stuff that I feel I'm past. Duncan may have wanted to do it, but he didn't really suggest it. But there's also lots of things that were manageable. So we actually booked a quad bike day, a 4x4 trip, like, you know, as in like a jeep, and a trip to Croco Park, which speaks for itself. I'm going to talk about each one of those. The quad bike day, I was like a child in a way. I was a little bit anxious before we got there, and I thought I was the only person, although Duncan hadn't done it before, but I thought that it's likely that I was the eldest there and the only one to have done it or this was, pardon me, my first time. And he, knowing that, put me at the front so he could keep an eye on me, bless him. And everybody else, that they're mostly, there was none that were really young, but they all just followed along, and he just kept an eye on them. And I had a whale of a time. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was going to be reminiscent of when I did my first horse riding, and I thought I was going to get cramp in my thighs and in my buttocks. And I didn't. And I got it in my head that to relax in the seat and just go with it. And every now and then he'd put his hand up and you'd come to a slope, and so you had to get yourself ready for it. And yeah, he just sort of revved and got up that, and I absolutely loved it. So exciting. We got absolutely filthy, as you'll see in the pictures and the video. At the end of it, we got back to it was a bizarre place. It was like a ramshack building at a petrol station of all places. And we got, first we go there and it gives us all our helmets. And at the end of it, we go back there to take the helmets back, and like he used like a leaf blower on us to blow all the dirt off, which was quite funny. So, yeah, we just got absolutely filthy. But on this trip, we stopped along the motorway, and I thought, surely he's not going to just leave us here and we've got to walk. But no, we just parked up alongside the motorway, and then he walked us across the motorway, believe it or not. I say motorway, it was 2 lanes, but it was quite a busy road. And we we went across, and as we're crossing, I noticed all these goats on the other side of the road. And oh no, I forgot, it's the goats in trees. I was so excited. And oh, it was amazing. These goats are perfectly bonkers. They're just perched on branches in a tree. You would think they'd been put there, but they climbed the tree. And they were so still, understandably, because they probably thought it might fall off, but they were so still, I thought they were just stuffed goats on the branches. Incredible. And the photos we got are absolutely amazing. And the man that took us around on the quad bike, he took videos and photos for us. Such a lovely man. And we got to hold a baby goat. It was 3 days old, as you'll see in the pictures. And they were taking argan pips off the tree for us to feed them, and that's what they feed. Because you imagine, they're in the middle of the desert, there's no grass for them to eat, but they do feed them with branches off the argan tree and everything. And so they take some off, give it to you, and if you hold it up like that, the goats, again you'll see in the pictures, will jump up at you and you feed them. Oh, absolutely loved it. And we were there for quite a while. And as you'll see in the pictures, actually, I've just remembered, there was one particular gentleman that was on the trip with us, and I was a bit taken aback at first, but he had with him a yellow, fluffy chick. It was about this big. And I had to ask him, I said, who's your friend? And he said, well, that's just Big Chick. And he takes it everywhere with him. It's his mascot. And so he was taking photos with the chick, with the goats, everything, and selfies with it. Amazing. He was just such fun. And because he put him on the front of his quad bike, he got filthy. So funny. But yeah, so it's all such memorable stuff, isn't it?
Hello. Video. Oh, very nice.
Yeah, so once we finished with the goats, it took us back again and was pointing out things along the way. And we stopped on the way back at the goat herders. I think his name was Mohammed. And you see, again, he's in the pictures with the long, I can't remember what the outfit is, but the hooded sort of dress. We stopped at his hut and they made us mint tea and we had biscuits with it. And that's quite humbling. His ramshack hut and everything around it was just, I thought, you think yourself so lucky to have what you've got when you see how some of these people live. And I videoed round. He did have a satellite dish, bless him, and a couple of other home comforts, but generally it was just stuff. So you'll see in the pictures. Is he?
Let's get goats away from here now, okay? Satellite TV, we see, isn't it?
Wow.
No. I see.
Another on the 4x4 day, which was basically wasn't really a Jeep, but it was a big car that could basically go on the sand dunes and everything. We rode across some desert, again, quite thrilling, quite painful because we were bumping around in the middle inside this car, and I did feel sorry for the couple in the back of the truck because they were bouncing about a bit more, but they didn't complain, they enjoyed it. And that was fun. And en route we stopped at some village, I can't remember the name of the village, and when we got there we couldn't see any buildings. We thought, have we been stitched up here, sort of thing. Anyway, we got out, he said, we've got 20 minutes here, you can have a wander around, take some photos. And we thought, okay. It was a bit precarious going down to the beach, but once you get down there you find these gentlemen sat there taking out mussels out of the shell, and there's shells everywhere. And then there's one little man that's sitting on his own. Again, he's in the pictures. And he starts to talk to us, and he's got quite good English, and he was telling us how they used to have up behind him, I've tried to show it in the pictures, but up behind him they used to have little houses that they used to live in, or at least stay in, when they were collecting the mussels. He said when the tide goes out again, the mussels are left behind, and that's where they pick them from. You may have known that, but I didn't. Yeah, and apparently I'm pretty sure it was December 2023, but it might have been December 2024. The government, I'm assuming by word of the king, was told to just demolish these houses. And they've got, I'll show you in the pictures, you'll see there's bits of tiled wall and everything where it was there, but now it's gone. While we're talking to him, he had a shell in his hand. He gave it to me as a gift, and he said, as a gift for you, he said, you can clean it and you can varnish it. All in French. That bit was varnish it, and he said, no, I've got it. It's downstairs on my mantelpiece or my windowsill, taking pride of place and with a lot of memories behind it. And then he said, come, have some tea. The rest of the group weren't keen. I don't know whether they didn't want to, they knew they'd have to pay for it or what, I have no idea, but we knew we would be giving him some dirhams, so we accepted, and we had a tea with him and gave him some money, and obviously he was really grateful. And then he later on, he just said, come back, you can come back to eat with me later, which we obviously weren't going to. But yeah, even though it was a bit of a weird place, it had lots of story, and it was just nice to meet this lovely old man. We got back into the Jeep, as it were. He took us to a bridge to show us a river, and I cannot remember the name of the river, but the river wasn't there anyway. It had dried up. We found out in the taxi leaving the airport when we first arrived that they haven't had any rain, at least in Agadir, for 4 years, and the river had dried up, so it wasn't the sight it could have been. And unfortunately, as you see in the photos, the bridge itself was graffitied. Now again, it doesn't matter where you go, does it? Someone is going to graffiti something. I think it's just so sad. But we saw that, and it I must admit, to be honest, actually that was the first thing we did before we went to see that man on the beach, and it was quite overcast at that point of the day, and I was freezing, really cold, and none of the others were very impressed by this, like, sort of, why have we stopped here sort of thing. Anyway, later on we stopped at a town called Tiznit. We've gone through a lot of other towns that he pointed out en route, and again, they all live so differently. All their shops are so tiny, all along the road. I don't think I've been to anywhere that's so different to home. At Tiznit, we would have loved to explore further, but unfortunately we were taken there just to go to a silver factory. I mean, I loved looking at all the silver, especially the jewellery and everything, and they specialised in filigree silver. And it was lovely, and I obviously was hoping that we'd buy. There was only one person that went in with us that he bought a leather and silver bracelet, but other than that, I don't think anybody bought anything. So you do feel a bit guilty, but you can't be forced to go there and buy stuff, can you? And also, Duncan and I had to remember we only had small bags, as usual, that we travelled with, so... And there's not a lot of room in our house for much more. Everything we did buy was small and light. Then we got back into, after looking and being really envious and thinking, oh, we should be seeing a bit more at, isn't it? You'll see, again, the very narrow shops and things along the street. We stopped on the and after that at like a Berber village, and there was a sort of ramshackle restaurant. And we had a tagine meal, and you had the option of vegetarian if you wanted it, but it was a chicken tagine or vegetarian tagine, and then after that it was couscous with vegetables again, lots of bread, and then as it is everywhere on the roadside, so much fruit and veg for sale. And what is one of the main things there is the clementine and oranges, and we had clementine for dessert, and then of course mint tea to finish. So that was a nice experience, but it was quite funny because we walked in, and it's a sign that everybody's starting to recognise that I'm that little bit older now, and he asked me if I wanted a stool rather than sitting on the floor. And I had to accept, because if I sat on the floor I knew that I would get cramp or I'd be so uncomfortable. But it was funny because they asked Duncan as well, and he said yeah, but he said he didn't feel right because the table was so low. But I thought, no, I'm staying here. So I was sat there like I was lording it on my throne, and all these people were sitting below me. Oh, but anyway, it was another nice experience. After that, we said, right, what's the next trip? And it said we go to we go to a small desert. So okay, so we thought we were just going to go on another trip over some sand dunes and things, but it was so disappointing because we got there and there must have been about 20 other 4x4s taking people on a trip. And obviously so many people came out of those 4x4s. So there was loads of people, and there was someone there selling scarves, someone else selling some other wares, and there was a man with a snake and a lizard offering photos with said snake and lizard. And at the back there were camels, and you could have a camel ride for 50 dirham or €5. So yeah, so we basically couldn't wait to get out of there. And a lot of this, it's all about their friends. They seem to, right, take them here, take them that, and trying to sell stuff. And if you want to do that, you do that. But none of our group bought anything. But we obviously took photos. So then we get back in the van after about 20 minutes, and our next stop was an argan factory, or argan oil factory. He did say to us, have you been to argan oil factory? Now Duncan and I hadn't, but we weren't really interested in going, but the other 4 people with us had, so they didn't want to go again. And we did try to say that to the driver, but it's obviously on his list and he has to do it. So we still stopped at the argan oil factory. It was interesting because I hadn't seen it before. It was interesting to see how hard and the process of what they do to get the argan oil, and some of the smells they put with them, just stunning. But because what you get in the argan oil factory is pure and not mixed and watered down with anything as such, it was quite expensive. A little bottle of oil, which you probably only use a few drops of, was like €50+ each bottle. And our friends from Glasgow and some other people we spoke to came out quite easily spending 150, 200 on some of their stuff. But Duncan and I had already bought some argan oil moisturising cream and things, which obviously has been watered down as such. So we didn't really want any more, and you can only take a certain amount of liquids on the plane, so we really didn't need any more. But I felt really guilty walking out, but I did explain to her, I said I really cannot buy any today. But she was fine. She said it's okay, we enjoy telling people how we make it. She's probably gritting her teeth, but so yeah, so we did have to pay, you would have, should I say, pay a lot more dirhams should you buy anything from there.